I used to think racing was just about fitness. Who trained harder? Who wanted it more? Who could suffer the longest? But this past weekend at the O'Neill Park 50K, I learned racing is way more emotional than I ever expected. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't just running, I was racing. I was in a battle, not against the course, but against another person who refused to let go. And honestly, it was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced in my life until my legs completely locked up. And suddenly the race that I thought might end in a podium became one of survival mode. But weirdly, I crossed that finish line more satisfied than I ever expected because I learned something out there. Sometimes the greatest part of the race has nothing to do with where you finished. This is my O'Neill Park 50K recap. Cue that intro music.
Who says you need to fly to reach the top? Keep beating your block till your feet are hot. Get your head out the sand, join the flock. It's okay to run scared, we enjoy the lie.
Welcome back to the Ostrich Running podcast. I'm your host, Nick Mraz, and today, this week, is a solo episode. If you're new here, welcome. This show's for the mid-pack grinders, those front-chasing elites, for the people out there just trying to survive, or those that are just curious about ultra running. You're in the right place. If you're listening to us on a run, we appreciate you. I hope that we get you through this nice and easy and entertained. Today, we're going to be doing a little race recap, but in a little different way. I kind of want to tell you a story, not just that normal race recap that, hey, this is what I ran, this is what happened. You know, I think all of this stuff in running is a little bit deeper than just recapping what we've been through. I want to take you on a little journey today, and that journey is going to take you to what I experienced at KH Race's O'Neill Park 50K, what I felt, what broke, what I learned, and what I walked away with understanding about this sport, about this brand, and honestly, about myself. So if you're just starting to run, make sure those shoes are tied. If you're hanging out listening in your car, make sure you enjoy this. But before we jump into it, please make sure you go rate, review, and leave a comment and follow wherever you're listening to this podcast. The algorithm likes it. We appreciate it. I love bringing this show and I want it to reach new audiences, new people. So please help us out in that way. And also I will be doing my ad spots just before we get into this episode. And I promise I will make it brief. I've been getting better and better at it. But first sponsor I'd like to thank is us, Ostrich Running. Now, make sure you go to the site. We have a brand new product called the Cold Shoulder. It is an ice bandana, and honestly, it's amazing. I mean, ice bandanas don't really need to be too advanced, but I've noticed that there's been a lot of changes over the years of what an ice bandana is. You know, you get the zippers, the different material, the different shapes. I honestly just took it to something simple, right? It's a dry fit material, but a big pocket. So you can fit a ton of ice in there. What I also like is you can actually feed ice into the neck, because I always wanted to cool down the blood coming from my jugular. I know that's graphic, but you know, I always think that if it's going to pump cooler blood to my body, it might cool me down faster. And it works. You know, it doesn't feel like itchy against the skin. It doesn't dig into your throat. Really easy and stable. And it's just that classic triangle form. And I really think you'll enjoy it, especially with the summer coming up. It feels like it's going to be a hot one. So please go check out the Cold Shoulder on the Ostrich Running website. Coming soon, some really great new products, some shirts that I am super excited about. We still have our collaborative hats from Laguna Sprint Society. Please go out there, purchase that blue hat, because all proceeds are going to go to that run club down there. What Dallas and everybody's doing down there is just incredible, and I want to be able to pay it forward. And if I can do that with some of my products, I want to be able to do that. Please go check out the hats. Second sponsor, Alethea Running Sensor. We love the team over at Alethea Runs, Eugene, Oregon. Great team. They really care about the science and the technology going into their product. They're constantly updating and revamping their application to be better than ever. And this running sensor is essentially a very intricate running lab that can fit in your pocket, but you wear it on the back. while you're running. But it's going to take measurements of everything from your force portrait, show you hip stability, show you your push-off force, and really give you the insight that a running lab would do, but at home, and it's affordable. I really recommend you go check it out. Use code RUNSCARE10 to get your discount today and visit alethea.run. With that being said, let me go ahead and set the scene, right? So we're at O'Neill Regional Park in Orange County, California, early morning, about 7 a.m., where you kind of still see a little bit of that morning fog coming in. It was a beautiful day. All day was great. We had, I think the highest temp was probably 74 degrees, maybe, if I remember correctly, but it was absolutely beautiful day for running. I really love KH races. When you get a chance, go check out khraces.com and you will see Kira has a list of amazing courses from LA all the way down to Orange County, 100 miles, 50Ks, marathons, just awesome stuff. And what I really like about her races is they always seem to end with a nice little climb to really just see who has the grit in them to push through at the end. And I love it. Her and her husband, Jesse, are just out there putting in awesome work to create an amazing experience for all of the community. It doesn't feel like some corporate machine. It's really like grassroots, family oriented, and I actually love it. And I will be doing as many KH races as I can from here on out. But what makes this one special is KH actually invited Ostrich Running to set up a booth. I want to say that casually and move on, but I can't, because to be honest with you, it actually meant a lot. I was able to sponsor an aid station at Whiting Ranch trail races earlier in the year, and that was amazing. But this was the first full established booth that I had, right? So when a race director extends that kind of trust to a small brand, a brand that's still figuring itself out, that still has days where I'm packing all the orders in my office myself, right? While my kids are trying to help me put together orders. But when somebody says, hey, we want you here, that feels amazing. When they want to support a local brand and set them up within the community, it's huge. So we set up the booth and we were so grateful for it. My wife was there. My family was there. We had product out. We had signage. We had, everything on a table, and people were stopping by who actually recognize the brand, and familiar faces from other races, and being out there within the community was awesome. Right. And that should have really been the whole story, honestly. But I had a race to run, right? And I'll be transparent. I went into this race thinking about the Podium, right? You heard the previous episodes, 1.7 miles to Podium. If you haven't had a chance, go back and listen to that episode. It was me calling my shot, right? Top 3 was the goal. I didn't know who was going to be in the field. You just kind of wait to see who shows up race day. But I felt good about my training. And I thought, this is the race where I can actually compete, not just survive, but compete. I've done, enough 50Ks and distances, to know how to finish one. But I wanted to know what it felt like to race one. Well, be careful what you wish for, right? So the countdown begins and everybody's there. We take our positioning at the start line. So I go at the front of the pack and gun starts and we go. And it's a mix of 10K runners, half marathon, and 50K, and everybody's like mixed in one. So I remember the front of the pack goes out hot, right? Like hot, not like, oh, we're moving well. I mean, they were moving. And I knew that this was going to be potentially an issue. So I made sure that I ran my race, right? But it was hard because you kind of remember who's running the 50K and you see how fast they go out and you're caught up in the hype. Man, I think we were running 640, 650 pace. The first 2 guys gone, absolutely gone. I want to say there was like 6 people in front, but as we did the 10K turnaround, I saw who peeled off and I kind of kicked myself because I was like, oh wow, those guys are running the 10K and I was trying to keep up with them. Time to lock in and settle down, Nick, right? But Ethan Meza, he is all the way at the front. And Ethan, if you're listening to this, I'll say this clearly and I mean every word. You were absolutely on one, my friend. That guy went out on a pace that was threatening the course record. And I'm watching him pull away thinking like, okay, I do not have an opportunity to even keep up with that guy. So go ahead and just forget that is even a possibility, right? He finished first, almost broke the course record. I believe he missed Jesse's course record by 1 minute. And Ethan, that's an absolute machine. And I want to shout that out properly. Ethan, you were absolutely incredible out there. Congratulations. So runner 1 is gone and runner 2 also completely gone. Right behind Ethan, really matching that energy from the jump. And then there's me and my buddy, Brandon. Brandon, you're awesome. It was so cool to share some miles with you out there. We were talking about it often. We're like, okay, we're up here. We're doing this. We're, third and fourth, fourth and third, third and fourth, right? But I think we decided early on that we're not going to chase those guys. We're just going to run our race, right? And I think I learned enough about racing to know that matching someone else's pace in mile 2 of a 50K is how you become a cautionary tale by mile 20, right? So we settled in, we found our rhythm, we kind of went dark with each other, Brandon and I, and just locked in, right? We were trading back and forth, but eventually, I pull a little ahead and, I'm in third place and I'm like, okay, I can hold third place. And honestly, I did. For a good long stretch. I was just sitting and it felt like really good. I felt like I belonged there. I wasn't like overexerting myself. It wasn't just, some fluke positioning out the scramble. I was like just actually there racing, right? But then out of the corner of my eye, I hear and see, somebody else behind me. That's like, okay, someone is coming for you, especially right here. And that man was Thomas DiMartino. And Thomas was running smart, patient, and I could feel his presence behind me. And not in a panic, but just constant. It was just there. And, if you've ever been in a race and known that someone's hunting you, you know that feeling. It changes something in your brain and your effort level kind of climbs, your breathing shifts. You start doing the math that you didn't know you could do. And I was like, all right, you know what? It's okay. Let him go by. And he did around mile 15, right? And that's when he passed me. And there was a moment that I want to describe to you, and I'm going to try and get it right because I've been really thinking about it all week. We're around mile 15. I'm still behind Thomas and I could see him, and purposely I wanted to make sure that I could always see him. So when I was ready to make my move, it wasn't going to have to be a crazy move, right? But, this is like very clear, almost cinematic moment where I realized, all right, I'm in this battle right now because he's not letting up and I'm trying to keep up. I see him kind of peeking over his shoulder occasionally. When we hit aid stations, he's in and out fast and quickly glance behind. But I knew that I was like, hey, just keep it here. And I'm watching his body language as I'm rolling through this, right? Now, with the course, so I'm in a battle, not with the course, not with the clock, with an actual other human being who wants to be the same place I want. And my heart just opened up, right? Because I've run a lot of miles and I finished ultras and I've pushed through suffering and walls and all the things that we talk about in this sport. But I never really felt this specific thing before, this combination of fear, excitement, and adrenaline and focus that comes from actual competition. And I've played several sports in my life and I love competing. I love that feeling. It's like being alive in a very specific way. Those runs where you feel totally in your body and nothing else exists, no noise, just you, the trail, your breath, you're in that flow state. This is what it was, but multiplied, because now there were stakes, not crazy stakes where I'm like, oh, I have a sponsor relying on this. That's why I sponsor myself, right? But, there was somebody who was actually pushing me and who was good, who was fast. And I thought, wow, this is what racing feels like. And I want everyone listening to experience that at least once. Not necessarily competing for the podium. It could be competing for your age group. It could be competing against a version of yourself from last year. But that feeling of being genuinely in it, I understand now why people chase this sport for decades. It is addictive. And then as we're about mile, I start feeling little twinges here and there. And each movement, each step, I just feel like a twinge in my hamstring. I'm like, oh no, that's not good. So I had updated my carb intake from 60 to 70 grams per hour. But the one mistake that I made was not to up my sodium intake. I was still sitting at about 1,000 milligrams per hour. And again, I highly recommend everybody go get a sweat test, because what most people don't realize is there's a lot of us who are burning 1,500 milligrams of sodium per hour. I still need to officially get my sweat test done so I know what it is I'm burning. But based off what happened, and I'll get into it, I probably needed 2,000 milligrams of sodium, especially at the pace that we were going. But okay, let me get into it now. So this is going to be kind of tough to talk about, but here we go. So I want to say, like I said, around mile 25-ish, we're on this exposed gradual climb. It's the last climb of the race. A full sun, no shade. The section that kind of, is really what makes or breaks the field. The section that feels like longer than it is because there's nothing to look at except the trail ahead of you and your own thoughts. And it's climbing, right? I had this growing sense that something is about to be really wrong in my legs, because I could feel those twinges happening. And that's the thing. The cramps, they will give you a little twinge warning, right? You kind of know. So I really tried to up my sodium intake once I felt those twinges, but it was just too little too late. And then as soon as I get past the first photographer on that climb, man, my legs cramped up, involuntary, in my abductors and rolling all the way through my quads. And all I could say was no. And I seized up and I could not move for about 2 minutes. I was just standing there waiting for the cramp to subdue. And then the thought went through my head. The very first thought was not be strong or dig deep or any of those things that we say on a podcast like this one or any other podcast. No, it was, oh no, not now. Followed immediately by, I own a damn electrolyte company. Yeah. So let me explain what happened, right? Because this is really important. It's not just a story. It's a lesson that I genuinely want you to take with you. My fueling plan, like I mentioned, going into this race was solid. I know fueling. I've studied it. I've built a company around it. I've worked with my coach. I've dialed it in over many training runs. The plan was 60 grams of carbs per hour, 1,000 milligrams of sodium per hour. And that's reasonable, right? That's well-researched plan for a long effort at moderate intensity. The problem? I was not running at moderate intensity because of the race situation, holding third, feeling DiMartino behind me, pushing more than I'd planned. My pace was probably 50 seconds to almost at times a minute faster than what I had trained and fueled on. And I even bumped up to the 70 grams of carbs per hour. More fuel, more effort, but I did not adjust my damn sodium. It's crazy. Here's the thing. And this is the insight I want every runner listening to write this down or screenshot or do whatever it is that you do. The fueling strategy for surviving a race is completely different from the fueling strategy for racing a race. When you push harder, you sweat more. When you sweat more, you lose more sodium. When you lose more sodium and you don't replace it, your muscles eventually will say, "We are done," and they mean it. I now believe, based on what happened to my body, that the effort level I was running needed to be closer to 2,000 milligrams of sodium per hour. Maybe even more, to be honest, but once I do that sweat test, I'll really find out. But I was giving my body only 1,000 milligrams. I basically gave my legs a check for half the amount they needed and expected full service. And the brutal irony is I have really good electrolytes, like objectively. I formulated them myself. They were in my pack until I went through them all because I just didn't take enough. Like rookie mistake, I should have brought like 5 extra packs for any emergency situation. I know this. I don't know why I didn't do it. So for anyone out there who's transitioning from finishing a race to actually racing, the faster you go, the more you sweat, the more sodium you lose, the more you need to replace. Your higher intensity fueling plan needs to account for high intensity sweat rates. Your survival plan won't keep pace with your racing body. I learned that the hard way. Okay, so after the 2-minute roadside intervention on my own legs, I started moving very slowly again. They would cramp occasionally, let go, give me a moment to run. But at that point, the podium's gone. And I knew that, right? Top 3 had become top 5. Then boom, cramps again. and I'm taking more sodium down, and I'm like, please just get past this. Every chance that I could became a moment to just keep moving. And that's what's crazy is my stomach felt great. My whole body felt great. I didn't even feel like I was in a bad spot. It was just involuntary muscle cramps that were completely out of my control, right? So then top 5 eventually became, oh my gosh, Nick, hold on to top 10 at least. And, just keep moving forward. And that's when I knew, I'm like, if I'm going to hold on to top 10, I have to run through cramps. And that was such a cool space to be, because I know my body felt good. It was just cramping. But when you just tell your mind, push through the cramps, and I started running as they were cramping, it was like just wild to be able to tell my body to keep moving even when it couldn't. And all of that stuff, you know, was just like a mental win to be able to will myself into holding top 10, because I'll tell you what, the entire time on the way back, I just wanted to walk. I just said, you know, just walk out the cramps, you know, it is what it is, and you'll finish when you finish. No, I had this thing just in my mind saying, okay, just do top 10. You know, one foot, then the other foot. That was a whole plan. Just keep moving forward. And there was something sort of meditative about that. If you can get enough distance from the suffering to appreciate it, you've been stripped back to the most fundamental version of the task. You're not racing anymore. You're not performing. You're just moving, right? Through space, one step at a time, just trying to get to the finish line. I have heard some athletes talk about this zone before, and I always kind of intellectually understood it, but experiencing it, feeling that narrowing of focus, that was something new. I managed the rest of the race by feel, to be honest. I was watching for the cramps signals again and just kept pushing through it. I was drinking a bunch of water. I had taken enough electrolytes at that point. The other cool thing is the entire race, I never once looked at my pace or the distance I was at. I just knew time and where I was in elevation on the course. Because they were going so fast, I didn't want to get in my head to actually see how fast we were going. So by the time we were at the end and I was just trying to survive, my legs started to feel good. And at that point, we were on the last mile of the race. And shout out to my buddy Brandon out there, who was struggling with his own stomach issues late in the race. I had left him back. And then to watch him pass me towards the end was so cool, because he had to dig deep in his own race to get past stomach issues. And then he passed me. And as he's down at the bottom of the hill, he shouts, and I don't think he realizes how much this motivated me, but he's down at the bottom of the hill and I just hear him shout, "Come on, Nick, let's go, push it." And it clicked something inside me. And I was like, he's right. Let's go. And we were right there at the end, and my legs just turned up and I was moving all the way until the finish line. It was great, you know? So crossing that finish line when things didn't go according to plan, honestly, that it hit different than any other finish that I've had. There was no triumphant fist pump. There was no moment of, I did it, because the version of it you planned did not happen. What you get instead is something quieter, more complex. I crossed the finish line in 5 hours and 13 minutes, 9th overall, a new PR, my fastest 50K ever, despite the cramps, despite the 2-minute roadside stop, despite the slower pace towards the end there. And I stood at the finish line, I hugged my son and felt, I don't know, proud really isn't quite the word. It's more like I felt satisfied. That's what it is. Like my body left something out there. I actually raced. I was genuinely in it for a significant portion of the race. And then I managed the collapse as well as I could have and still got to the finish line faster than I ever have before. So that was something. I also felt humbled, properly humbled, not in a defeated way, but in the way that good competition humbles you, in the way that this sport does when you take it seriously. You always finds a way to remind you that there is more to learn every single run that you do. And when I walk back to the booth from the finish line, this is the part that I keep coming back to. I walk back to the Ostrich Running booth after crossing the finish line, still sweaty, still tight, still processing the race. And there were people there, runners, people who'd stopped at the booth before the race, after the race, during the race. It's like if they were near the start finish, people who recognized the brand, people who had questions, people who just wanted to talk. And my wife was there. My family was there. The booth that I left full of hats, I come back and there's a few hats remaining. And it was like this surreal moment, right? My wife, who has given up a Saturday morning to wake up early, to load up the van. My kids who woke up early at 7 and 8 years old to get out there and prep something that is a dream of mine. And I had this moment. I looked at the booth. I really looked at it and I thought, oh my gosh, this is what I'm here for. Not the podium, not the placing, not even the PR, but this, talking with people after the race, shaking hands, good job. Oh my gosh, tell me about your electrolyte mix. Tell me about the hats. What is it that you're doing? You have a podcast? And it was this community, this connection, seeing other people who I had seen at other runs and people that I met through this whole experience that is Ostrich Running. Talking about a race, talking about what their challenges were, talking about what they're going to do in the future. The fact that Ostrich Running is becoming something that means something to people and runners who are on their own journeys, dealing with their own miles, fighting their own battles, and they found something in this brand that resonates with them, that's not something that I can manufacture, to be honest. That's not something that you can put into a fueling plan. That's just, it happens when you build something with the right intention. And I know we've seen a lot of different brands in our social media feeds lately, whether we agree with them or not, certain collaborations. I don't look at them as what it is that they're doing. I honestly just look at myself and this brand and the positive connections that it makes. And it is sublime for me to just sit back and see what has happened within this 1.5 years time. I want to thank KH Races sincerely from the bottom of my heart for allowing us to set up that booth, for believing and supporting in what we're building early, for being the kind of organization that wants small brands and grassroots community to be part of the experience. That's rare. That matters. And I do not take it lightly. I want to thank every single person who stopped by, whether you bought something, asked a question, or just said, oh, cool, what's Ostrich Running? You're the reason why I keep going. You are literally the reason this exists. I want to thank my wife, my kids, my coach for being there. My wife again for getting up early, for manning the booth, for being the #1 saleswoman of this company. And if you had a chance to talk to her, you probably walked away buying something because she's just that good. For cheering at the right moments. You know who you are and what it means to me. Thank you to my wife. Thank you to my kids. Thank you to my coach. Thank you to my friends out there. Before I wrap this up, I need to give some flowers to people who made this race what it is. We've already said thank you to KH Races and all of the amazing volunteers out there, the aid station workers, all of you, the high fives, the cheers, the woohoos, all that stuff that kept us going. But I want to shout out Ethan Meza. First place, almost broke the course record, went out like an absolute freight train and never looked back. Watching someone compete at that level is a privilege. Ethan, you're the real deal. That was one of the most impressive performances I've seen firsthand. Congratulations, brother. Melody Cox, first female, and she raced, man. Not just ran, she raced. And she was strong from start to finish, and it was beautiful to watch. I watched her pass me when I was struggling on that last part of the climb, and she just kept running up so strong. Melody, I don't know if you remember me, but I shouted out to you. You were amazing. You were incredible. Congratulations. I hope you enjoyed your Ostrich Running Winners Bundle, by the way. And to Thomas DiMartino, if anyone can find this man out there, please share this episode for him because I couldn't find him on social media. But I want to say this to you, Thomas. You pushed me for miles and you earned every position you took. My man, that's the best kind of competition. I knew you were there the whole time and it made me even better, even when it ultimately broke me. And thank you for that. We had a nice conversation after the race. Much respect, man. You are an incredible person. Thank you so much for pushing me. And to everybody who towed that line on Saturday, in any distance, at any pace, you showed up. That counts for everything. So I'm going to bring this home with a few things that I'm taking away from this race, and not just the inspirational poster stuff, the hang in there cat, the real stuff. Lesson 1, racing is emotional. Not just hard, it is emotional. There's a specific aliveness that comes from genuine competition that I had never fully accessed before, and I want more of it. And I think more of you should seek it out, whatever that looks like in your own running. Number 2, your fueling plan needs to match your effort, not just your distance. If you're racing harder than you train, your sodium needs to scale with your effort level, and I'll put more detailed content about this. But the short version is this: more effort, more sweat, more sodium. Don't be like me. Don't own an electrolyte company and forget to use it properly. Blah. Number 3, the goals will shift mid-race. They always do. Top 3 became top 10, became just finish. And that's okay. That's not failure. That's adaptation. The ability to reset your target without completely falling apart mentally is a real skill, and it is worth developing. And 4, suffering can be fulfilling. I know that sounds like a bumper sticker for sure, and I said I wasn't going to do the poster stuff, but there's a difference between suffering that leaves you empty and suffering that leaves you satisfied and full. What happened to me on that course, those cramps, the recalibration, the survival mode, I would not trade it in for one thing. It taught me something. That's fulfilled suffering. That is the kind of suffering worth chasing. And number 5, the community is the point. I've been building Ostrich Running for a while now, and I've known intellectually that the brand is about connection, about supporting runners, about building something real. But standing at that finish line, walking back to the booth, seeing actual people engage with what we've made, that turned knowledge into feeling. The podium would have been incredible, but the booth, the people, the connection, that was better. And I want to say that clearly because I think it's worth saying clearly. I care more about building something that helps runners than I do about my own race results. That's not something I would have said with conviction before Saturday, but now I mean it. So here's what I want you to walk away with. Whether you're training for your first 5K or your 5th 100-miler, whether you run because you're healing or because you're fighting or because your legs just need somewhere to go, the process matters. The moments matter. The miles matter. The people you run alongside and sometimes against matter. Don't wait until you're perfect to race. Don't wait until your training is dialed before you show up. Show up now. Show up imperfect and unprepared and full of hope. That's what I did Saturday. That's what most of us do every time we show up to the start. And on the way, fuel better than I did. Seriously, please. If you want to learn more about Ostrich Running and our products, or just want to come hang out in the community, find us. We're building something and there's room for you here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you to KH Races, to every runner at O'Neill Regional Park 50K last Saturday, to my family, and to this beautiful, painful, ridiculous sport that somehow makes all of us better humans. I'll see you on the trail. Cue that outro music.
Who says you need to fly to reach the top? Keep beating your block till your feet are hot. Get your head out the sand, join the flock. It's okay to run scared, we enjoy the lie. I'm an odd kid, like an ostrich. I got a pod, kids, here's a topic. Blaze your own trail, don't be cautious. 2 birds, 1 stone's how I rock it. Can't make an omelet without breaking a shell. But they say grew up, now I'm raising hell. Haters gonna hate, yeah, they praying you fail. So put in the work, whether pavement or trail. The grades fell down, but they got to the feet. Run your own race, put this pod on repeat. Shake your tail feather, keep nodding your beaks. Ostrich gang, or you're not my peeps. Who says you need to fly to reach the top?